So this is going to be our next segment in the hyperlocal content series. I brought Emily on today. Emily Cobble does all the blogging for us here. Her and Kim do the blogging at Union Street Media for us and for our clients, and they do the content. They have a lot to do with the content strategy. And Emily also is the person who edits all my takes for these videos. She goes through all these videos and makes sure that I'm telling the truth and make sure that I'm not, using a lot of outdated jokes.
Lots of work.
Right.
Create lots of work for me.
Right. Yeah, Emily has been forced through this project, kicking and screaming, but she's excited. She's
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not normally in the office, so it's good to, get my feet wet in this video.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about blogging.
Yes.
And so if you remember, I'm just going to intro this first. Like we started talking about rec searches as hyperlocal content to try and drive more people to your website. We then talked about community pages, and community pages, I said, were the doorway to the website, right? That's where you're really going to get a sense of what else is in there in the website for internal pages. So the community page, the place it's really supposed to link you to is the blog.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
one of the things that I think is the most important thing to link people to, because that's where you can really differentiate yourself. Like, this is the fun stuff. Like, all the stuff we were talking about before was like the foundational stuff. You got to have a community page, right? Because you're talking about, we were using the example Burlington, Vermont.
Yep.
And we're saying like, all right, here are all the different neighborhoods in Burlington, Vermont. Here are the dining options. Here are the lifestyle and activity things. And this is your community page. And in each one of those paragraphs, for lack of, however much you've talked about each one of those things, there should be links in there.
Yes.
And those links really are the way you're going to drive people to the blog, but also enhance the conversation, right? Like, you've talked a little bit about the dining options in Burlington, Vermont, but now we can actually send them to articles in your blog about specific restaurants.
Yeah. So, blogging is a great opportunity to be a little bit more casual with it, really show your personality, show who you are, show more value, and with blogging especially, like, it doesn't have to be one specific thing. It can be so many different things, whether it's great hiking trails in your area or a music festival that came to town. Like, those sorts of things are just a great opportunity to show the personality of you as well as the town that you're trying to focus your attention on.
Yeah. And for those of you who I realize that blogging in general is one of the curse words in this industry, and I get that, like, you don't want to do any blogging, but here's the thing. When you are actually blogging off of the community, like, to me, that's the directional stuff, right? That's how you send people to your blog, right? You set it up in the community page, and now people can go, oh, I want to read more about what restaurants are in Burlington, Vermont. I see that you've got a little bit of information here. Now it's sending me to a couple of articles on the blog, right? And also, I think, like, in the keeping with the directional idea, it keeps you as the website owner of the website, gives you a direction on what content to write next. So, like, we've got all these different topics we're going to talk about off of the community page. Now you've got a compass to say, all right, now I know I want to talk about dining and restaurant options downtown. I know that I want to talk about the neighborhoods in each neighborhood and go into depth on each neighborhood. So now you know. And
like going the other way too. So blogging is great for your social media, great shareable content, so that somebody who might not be looking for a house shares this great blog that you wrote, and they might have a friend who's looking for a house or looking for an agent to represent them when they're selling a home. And these blogs should also link to the community pages, not just the community pages linking to the blogs.
Yeah.
That way, someone might find your blog post on Facebook and then go a little bit more in depth about, like, what are the neighborhoods like. Like, you might bring up the Old North End, like great dining in the Old North End, well, now you can link to the Old North End and tell them a little bit more what that means, what kind of home styles are there. And it's always just making sure everything's linking together. Google likes to see links back and forth. It gives you a lot more authority. Yeah.
Right. So one of the big problems I think that most agents, so I talk to a lot of agents every day, right? And they just basically tell me all the problems there are with their website and with websites in general. And one of the big things is, well, nobody reads the blog, right? Like your blog is number one, nobody reads it. Number two, you have to be constantly writing information for it. So the activity is what they think is the biggest problem, right? Like that you have to be writing blogs on a 3 a day, 10 a week basis. But with this sort of strategy, you're writing blog posts whenever it's convenient for you, and it's all solidifying a piece of information that you're building it around, right? So the communities is one way to look at that. You're building more and more blog posts around the community, so it doesn't matter how active it is, because once somebody goes to the community page, that's where they'll go and read these articles.
Yeah. And it's also more about consistency than the amount of time you're blogging. So if you're only blogging once a month, have it on the same day at the same time. That way people know, okay, they're going to post this time, and it's being regular about it. That's going to get you a lot more traffic. And then sharing on social is so important. Like, don't just write your blog post and hope, oh, it's out in the world now. You really need to be active and, linking it to your social medias, like I said, and then that drives people to your website and vice versa. And,
yeah. Linking.
Well,
so we were talking about this the other day, like social sharing, right? And the idea that like you have a sphere of influence, you should be pushing out these blogs. So you write a blog about a restaurant in Burlington, it's attached to that community page, you push that blog out onto Facebook or whatever social media platform, and your friends, your clients, and your referral system, your sphere of influence is going to push that out. As long as the article is worth reading, and that's the big thing. Is now we're sending people to the blog, and then through the blog we'll get them to go back to the community page, and then through that community page we send them back over to the blog to get more information on about whatever they're interested in.
It's really about just driving, the traffic to your website. For people that might not be actively seeking, a realtor at this time, but now you're top of mind, you have the brand awareness piece of it, and they like the recall on that, and just continuing to, in the slower months when, you're not selling as many homes, but getting in front of people so that the next time they're like, I need a realtor, you're the first person that they think of because you're the expert. You've established yourself as really knowing the area, knowing what people want to read about in that area, and they're going to come back to you. We've seen that in the data. People will come back to you.
Yeah, if you've got a strong enough blog and you're showing some consistency and you're putting some relevant information up there from time to time. And so Emily, like we talked about, Emily does this for our clients, right? So they give her ideas, but a lot of times they expect her to come up with the ideas. And that's sort of like a reverse of what we're talking about here, which is you need to be creating sort of a map that then Emily can go and take that information. You give a couple bullet points about your downtown area of a specific town, and then Emily is a writer, right? She's a professional writer, but she's not a professional Exactly. She needs your input as to what's important in your area, and from there, once you've got that, Emily can fill in the dots, or
and
whatever
like you said,
call it.
Even just like a couple bullet points. I have clients that send me, a title. And then I can research, and the more you're writing, the easier it is for me to kind of build new blog posts because I have that background. I can link to things that are relevant that's already on your blog. But yeah, blogging is very intimidating, I think, in the beginning, especially to people who aren't a writer.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do, is take the intimidation factor out of it.
It's, start small. And length, people think that blogging has to be this long thing. Start with like a short snippet of like something that's happening in your town. It can be 100 words, something that's, getting people to notice that you are active and you are writing, and it'll come easier over time. think about things that like your clients bring up when you're just having coffee with them, getting to know them a little bit. What are you hearing? I mean, you're the one going to the post office every day. Like, what are some things that like I might not be able to find on the web without the base knowledge?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good point, right? It's like it doesn't matter how, like, what we're trying to do is take all this like dogma with blogs out of it. It doesn't matter how long it is. It doesn't matter how often you do it. What matters is the content is interesting and relevant, and that is what's going to drive user engagement. So
yeah. So at that point, if you go to somewhere like Realtor.com, you find a lot of staging your home in preparation to sell. That you can find that anywhere. But I mean, people are looking for that. It's useful to have on your blog, but that shouldn't be the only thing you're talking about. And I think that's something that we're really trying to talk about in this series, is that hyper-local content is king. Google wants to see the hyper-local content.
Right. So and on top of that, a lot of people use these like blog farms, right? Like they use these things where they push out blogs to all these different websites that are the same content, and it's so generic that it's almost like you're learning nothing from it anyway. And you run into this other problem, which is duplicate content.
Yeah, you can't. The biggest thing is you don't want a word-for-word duplicate content on your website. Google crawls for that. They recognize it, and it's going to harm your rankings overall. So the more original content you can write, the better, in order to get that ranking.
And like what Emily's saying, like frankly, like how many articles do we need on the top 5 ways to stage your home? Like we've got that, we got it, we got the information. So we're done. We don't need that information anymore. If you are an expert at staging, or if that's a big part of it, then that should be one of the articles in there. But I think what we run into is like, blog, this week we're going to do staging. Next week we're going to do something on China. The next week we're going to do something on buyers. The next thing we're going to do, and it just seems like an endless stream of random thoughts, And what we're trying to do is actually turn this into a lot of topics with subtopics and articles that enhance those topics based on areas, based on lifestyles, based on the reason why somebody will want to move to that area. If you're looking for listers and you need to prove how to stage a home or how to, then that could be an article in and of itself, and all those blogs can be attached to your sell with us or buy with us or whatever that page is. But let's think about it in terms of topics that go to enhance the main page that we're sending people off of. I guess is my point.
To kind of go off of that, like linking to relevant blog posts within those blog posts. So, you don't have to, reinvent the wheel every single time you write a blog post. Like, it's okay to refer to, like, just link to something that you might have gone into depth a month ago. Users will click on links. They'll go through your website if you give them a path to follow.
The why of why you would do all this, right? And it's to give the website some intention, and we've been talking about that, so I'm probably beating that topic up a little bit, right? But it's just to give people who get to your website another place to go.
Exactly.
And I think all this leads to the thing that everybody talks about now, which is stickiness.
Yep.
How long can you get people to stay on your website? Well, if you've got a lot of internal links talking about blog posts that have to do with other blog posts that have to do with communities, now you've got somebody who spent 5 minutes on your website, 10 minutes on your website. If you got that kind of engagement on average,
if they're staying that long on your site, the data we're seeing is they're more than likely going to convert at the end of the day. Like, whether it's a phone call, filling out a form, subscribing to your blog. That's a great way to get somebody's information. And again, stay top of mind so that down the road you're really forming that relationship.
Well, and tell me if I'm wrong, but that also helps with your quality score, right? Your site authority, right?
Yes, absolutely.
The longer Google sees that people are staying on your website, the more willing they are to refer other people to your website, because there's obviously something on there that's worth looking at. And the internal links are exactly how, I mean, I shouldn't be talking about this, you should be talking about this, but that's how Google gets around.
Yeah, so they will map your whole site, and the more links you have going to other pages, the more legitimate it looks. Back in the day, there was a lot of issues where people were just throwing up a page just to throw up a page, because page number, like the number of pages used to be king.
Right.
And now it's the linking and it being valuable to other pages on your site. And the more everyththing is interconnected, the better Google views your site.
Cool.
Okay,
Go ahead. You can jump into it.
This is something a lot of my clients kind of freak out about first. Like, how am I going to get another business in my community to like push my content for me? You're already forming those relationships. I know that you're out there and you have these connections.
Your content sucks. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Like,
mean,
why would
day,
you want to link to
yeah,
somebody with crappy content?
If you have great content, if you write a glowing review about, a local restaurant or, an art gallery that just opened, they want that press too. So now you have a relationship with them and they're sharing your content on their social medias or linking to you on their community resources pages. It's all about using the relationships you already have, building content that's original and relevant to your local user, and the relationships will come. We see that again and again without even sometimes conversations having to be had between business owners. You'll get a notification that your blog post was shared.
Yeah. I mean, you could hire a PR firm to try and figure out how to backlink to everything. But I think it's much easier if you're writing great content and it's got something to do about it, right? Like you've now understood. Like I've written a page about Burlington, Vermont. I've talked about the dining experience or the lifestyle experiences in Burlington, Vermont. Now I've actually expanded on that by talking about specific areas to go to, whether it's the waterfront in Burlington, Vermont, or Echo Lake Aquarium, or perhaps you're talking about waterfront in a particular neighborhood in Burlington, and now you want to talk about the taxes that are involved, or all the specifications that only a realtor can talk about.
Exactly.
That stuff is valuable information for your Chamber of Commerce, for anybody who you already have relationships with to easily go and say, hey, I put together this great article about the taxes in a particular area, or some of the requirements that you need to know about when you're building a home in a specific area. Whatever it is, I'm not a realtor. I don't know what it is. But the point being that you can get those backlinks, because now people, what is everybody thirsty for? Content. Because not just your content sucks, everybody's content sucks. So
not our clients' content.
right. But so that's the problem. Is like they're all looking for content, and so when you have some relevant content, not only does it get shared on social media, but now you can start talking about really getting backlinks using, like Emily was saying, using the relationships you already have to get those backlinks. If you get backlinks, and you have all these internal links, and you have a ton of content, I think
that's a winning combination.
Search engine optimization is what you have under your